diving. Hope comes and stops us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Man, I remember when I used to share all this out, it took me. That's why it's actually one of the reasons I don't usually get started till the 3 minute mark. That's actually how it kind of started out. So, but it's weird because it seems like the less I put it out or put it into places for good intention, the more it seems to grow. It's weird. The Trudging Together group was, yeah, I don't miss it at all. Not that it was a hindrance, but I don't know. It just felt mixed up and caught up in everything else, and I don't want to be. I don't want to be a part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. But life feels overwhelming, so I'm staying away from it right now. So I went live instead of letting my head decide what we're going to do next until therapy. I have therapy today. Thank God, huh? Thank God for therapy. We just had another really good meeting. Um, yeah, I'm certainly not going to take credit. But it just seems like people are really getting help from that meeting. And it's not just me. I mean, I intentionally invited some people because I knew. There's some people I just know what they're up, you know. Um, we have one person in the group, they're like, you know, I'm a therapist. I'm like, yeah, I knew that. I knew that. I tell by the way they talk that they're in the field. They just talk a certain way. You can't help it, you know. Um, so, all right, we're at the 3 minute mark, and I'm not going to dilly dally on this one. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Not really anticipating anybody on this one, but I have a ton of rewatchers, so I have what I call the quietest following. I do, and sometimes it gets to me. Please don't take any offense. Sometimes it does get to me where it's like, you know, because it kind of lets you know if you're making a difference or not. But you know, so who knows? Hey, Michelle, I was just bragging a little bit about how our meeting was really good. Our, not mine. God started that meeting, not me. Yeah. I did the work, but I consider myself a vessel. I know it might feel a little religion-y for people, but um, I consider myself a vessel of God to spread His love and kindness. I don't always do the best job at it, um, but I do the best that I can each day, and that's all He really ever asks of me. Um, you know, somebody just said something in a meeting, and it kind of hit me. You know, that when it comes to resentments, the ones that I really need to work on are the ones in my family. Everybody else just kind of, you know, so um, it's hard to not go off script, Michelle. It's hard. It I don't know what it is, but it just feels very safe. And when people finally get to a place where they feel safe, be able to give their, you know, their experiences or even advice, it's easy to do. Did you hear me at one point say it's really hard for me not to comment between each person? So you ain't the only one. I go through it every time I chair that meeting because it's so open and and vulnerable that I get excited. I get a little excitement. So you are not alone in that. And one day, there'll be one day, Michelle, when you have to say, hey, Dion, we don't do that here. There'll be a day. You watch. So welcome to Daily Trudge. My name is Dion. We're going to be in Language of the Heart today on page 254. I have no idea what this is really about, but we're going to read it. It had humility in it, so I grabbed it. If you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching the live or the rewatch. Should we stick with the purple? Yeah, let's stick with the purple. All right. Humility for today, written in June 1961. There can be no absolute humility for us humans, and that's what made me want to read it. Because I don't even think I can understand what absolute humility is. All right. So, at best we can only glimpse the meaning and the splendor of such a perfect ideal. As the book Alcoholics Anonymous says, we are not saints. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Only God Himself can manifest in this absolute. We human beings must needs live and grow in the domain of the relative. We seek humility for today. So another great reason to live in today. Um, yeah, sometimes slowly, damn it. Stupid God's time. I do get a little impatient every now and again. Now, I actually bring up this line a lot. Okay. And watch this. Watch this. We are not saints. We claim spiritual progress. You finished it in your head. Okay. Now, the last thing you said in your head is what's really going to be captured in that sentence, rather than say, well, I'm not perfect. And that's as far as most people are going. But there's direction there. And the fact that he's even bringing it up here, you have to claim you have to claim your spiritual progress. That is humility for today. Your 10th step is humility for today. Therefore, our practical question is this: just what do we mean by humility for today, and how do we know when we have found it? And see, this is what I love about AA. They don't just bring up the question, kind of give you nilly-willy stuff. They go into it. They go into it. Okay? We scarcely need to be reminded that excessive guilt or rebellion leads to spiritual poverty. But it was a very long time before we knew we could get even more broke on spiritual pride. When we early AAs got our first glimmer of how spiritually prideful we could be, we coined the expression, don't try to get too damn good by Thursday. Oh my God, I haven't heard that in such a long time. Right? That old time admonition may look like another of those handy alibis that we can excuse us from trying our best. Yet a closer view reveals just the contrary. This is our AA way of warning against pride blindness in the imaginary perfection that we do not possess. Right? You know, how fast you get well, I don't know. I know that there's some averages out there. Okay. Takes about a year. Takes about a year. Okay. But let me give you something here. When I got sober the first time at 18, the alcohol obsession wasn't as huge as it was when it was at 45. Not even close. Not even close. Right. I healed pretty quickly. I got the concepts pretty quickly compared to. Right. So there's no reason to compare where you're at in the program with other people. The only comparison you need to make is with yourself from yesterday or maybe a few weeks prior. Okay. Now that we no longer patronize bars and bordellos, now that we bring home the paychecks, now that we are so very active in AA, and now that people congratulate us on these signs of progress, well, we naturally proceed to congratulate ourselves. Yeah, I'm hearing you, Amber. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're having that kind of day. It's bullshit. I hear you. Yeah, the meeting was kind of on anger and resentments. It was a hard question brought up today. It was a hard question where somebody's kids were saying, if you go see this person while you're out here, we're not talking to you. That was tough, man. We got through it, and some very great things I think were said on it. You know, came down to the fact that they loved him. But in my mind, the first thing that happened was, oh, an ultimatum. See how my mind's just kind of warped that way, right? So I'll say this, Amber. I hope you have a better day. I really do. And I'm not going to say or tell you need to do this and no. You have the tools. You have the tools. Sometimes we have to stay in our anger for a little bit, and that's okay too. That's all right too. But know this, whether you fucking dislike people today or not, I love you. So, because when we say I dislike people today, I'm not included in that. Whoo, pushing boundaries. Yeah. I have people pushing my fucking boundaries right now. They don't even know it. They don't even know it. All right. I ain't tell them either. I ain't tell them it's not for me on that one. All right. Um, and now that people congratulate us on the signs of progress, well, we naturally proceed to congratulate ourselves. Yet we may not be within hailing distance of humility, meaning well, yet doing badly. How often have I said or thought, am I right? I am right and you are wrong. My plan is correct and yours is faulty. Thank God your sins are not my sins. You're hurting AA and I'm going to stop you cold. Oh, yeah, I've said that fucking one. I have God's guidance, so He is on my side, and so on indefinitely. I will say that I am guilty of a few of those, even lately. Even lately, uh, I have God's guidance. God's not on my side because there shouldn't be sides to take. The rest of it's human will, in my book. All right. But no, these are absolutes that I got to stay away from. To think that God loves me or touts on me more than he does any of his other children is kind of silly thinking for Dion. The alarming thing about such pride blindness is the ease with which it is justified. Yes, it is so easy to justify. Well, look what they're doing. I bring it up a lot, don't I? I do. Right? Well, look what they're doing over there. And doesn't that make me great? Because I'm not doing it. Oh, you need a congratulations for not breaking the law, Dion. You need congratulations or a thank you for taking out the trash. Uh, and that's pride blindness by Dion justifying why he gets to act the way he acts. There. And I wish it was true. I wish sometimes I wish feelings were fact because I'd be winning the game of life. Wish in one hand, shit in the other, right? Never really understood that one. I have to look it up. The alarming thing about such is the ease it is justified, but we need not look far to see that this deceptive brand of self justification is a universal destroyer of harmony and of love. It sets person against person, nation against nation. By it, every form of folly and violence can be made to look right and even respectable. Of course, it is not for us to condemn. We need only investigate ourselves. Division is what went through my head that, you know, that I see other people dividing it, but when then I start to argue with it, aren't I doing the same thing? Just a different way. Division. Well, don't listen to them. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They did this and they did that. Isn't that a form of division too? It's a hard one to balance, man. One which is taking me a very long time. I ain't there yet. I'm not. How then can we do more and more about reducing our guilt, rebellion, and pride? When I inventory such defects, I like to draw a picture and tell myself a story. My picture is that of a highway to humility, and my story is an allegory, allegory, not an allergy. What's an allegory? It seems like I should know, but I don't. Not off the top of my head. Definition of allegory.
Here's the definition of allegory. A story, poem, or picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning, typically a moral or political one.
Okay, in this case, it'll be a moral. Okay, well, that helps me a little bit. On one side of my highway, I see a great bog. The highway's edge borders a shallow marsh, which finally shelves into that muddy morass of guilt and rebellion in which I have so often floundered. Self destruction lies in wait out there, and I know this. But the country on the other side of the road looks fine. I see inviting glades, and beyond them, great mountains. The countless trails leading into this pleasant land look safe. It will be easy, I think, to find one's way back. Ooh. Together with numbers of friends, I decide to take a brief detour. We pick our path and happily plunge along it. Elated, somebody soon says, maybe we'll find gold on the top of that mountain. Then, to our amazement, we do strike gold. Not nuggets in the streams, but fully minted coins. The heads of these coins each declare, this is pure gold, 24 carats. Surely we think this is the reward for our patient plodding back into the everlasting brightness of the highway. I'm really curious as to where he goes with this. But what I can see so far is false evidence appearing real. Fear. Soon, though, we begin to notice the words on the tails of our coins, and we have that strange foreboding. Some pieces carry rather attractive inscriptions. I am power. I am acclaim. I am wealth. I am righteousness, they say. But others seem very strange. For example, I am the master race. I am the benefactor. I am good causes. I am God. This is very puzzling. Nevertheless, we pocket them. But next come to real shockers. They read, I'm pride. I'm revenge. I'm disunity. I'm chaos. Then we turn up a single coin, just one, which declares, I am the devil himself. Some of us are horrified and we cry, this is fool's gold and this is a fool's paradise. Let's clear out of here. Kind of figured that's where he was going. You know, the prettier path, the path with wealth and gold, it's the devil. It's the devil. That's how it works, right? And I'm using devil as a universal word that for every good, there's got to be an opposite thing, right? Can't have good without evil. Otherwise, it's not good. It's just what it is, right? I wish I knew more about that. So, but for lack of a better word, it's bad, man. It's just bad. Okay. Drugs are bad. Okay. But many would not return with us. They said, let's stay here and sort over these damn coins. We'll pick up only the ones that carry the lucky inscriptions. For instance, those that say power and glory and righteousness. Those are bad words too. Power and glory. Not power or glory. Actually, my brain does. which is why I have humility. Oh, it strives for that. I'm a fucking promoter, man. Why do you think I get so? I just want to. I got to watch where I put my feet. And righteousness, you fellows are going to be sorry you didn't stick around. Not strangely, it was years before this part of our original company returned to the highway. They told us the story of those who had sworn never to return. They had said, "This money is real gold, and don't tell us any different. We're going to pile up all we can. Sure, we don't like those full mottos, but there's plenty of firewood here. We'll just melt all this stuff down into good solid gold bricks." Then our late arrivals added, "This is how the gold of pride claimed our brothers." They were already quarreling over their bricks when we left. Some of them were hurting and a few dying. They had begun to destroy each other. The symbolic picture graphically tells me that I may attain humility for today, only to the extent that I'm able to avoid the bog of guilt and rebellion in that fair but deceiving land which is strewn with the coin of pride. This is how I can find and stay on the road of humility which lies in between. Therefore, a constant inventory which can reveal what I am off the road is always in order. Of course, our first attempts at such inventories are apt to prove very unrealistic. I used to be the champ of unrealistic self appraisal. I wanted only to look that part of my life which seemed good. Then I would greatly exaggerate whatever virtues I supposed I had attained. Next, I would congratulate myself on a grand job I was doing. So my unconscious self deception never failed to turn my few good assets into serious liabilities. This astonishing process was always a pleasant one. Naturally, this generated a terrible hankering for still more accomplishments and still more approval. I was I was falling straight back into the pattern of my drinking days. Here were the same old goals: power, fame, and applause. Besides, I had the best alibi known, the spiritual alibi. The fact that I really did have spiritual objective always made this utter nonsense seem perfectly right. I couldn't tell a good coin from the bad one. It was spiritual gold bricking at its worst. I shall forever regret the damage I did to people around me. Indeed, I still tremble when I realize what I might have done to AA and its future. In those days, I wasn't much bothered about the areas in life in which I was standing still. There was always the alibi. After all, I said to myself, I'm far too busy with much more important matters. That was near my perfect prescription for comfort and complacency. But sometimes I would simply have to look at certain situations where, on the face of them, I was doing very badly. Right away, a rousing rebellion would set in. Then the search for excuses would become frantic. These, I would exclaim, are really a good man's fault. When I get that pet gadget finally broken apart, I would think, well, if those people would only treat me right, I wouldn't have to behave the way I do. Next in order was this: God well knows that that I do have an awful compulsions. I just can't get over this one. So he will have to release me. At last came the time when would shout, This is this I positively will not do. I won't even try. Of course my conflicts went right on mounting because I was simply loaded with excuses and refusals. And he hasn't said much more except give some examples here. So when these troubles finally exhausted me enough, so when we had enough of the excuses, there was yet another escape. I would commence to wallow in the bog of guilt. Here, pride and rebellion would give way to depression. Though the variations were many, my main theme was always how god awful I am. Just as I exaggerated my modest attainments by pride, so now I would exaggerate my defects through guilt. I would race about confessing all and a great deal more to whoever would listen. Believe it or not, I took that to be great humility on my part. I counted this as my sole remaining asset and consolation. Ooh. So I hear him saying is utilizing the ninth step through guilt. Here's the thing, for me anyway. I was always just trying to get attention, and I didn't know how to get, there didn't seem to be anything that I could really do for the man that was raising me, for him to say anything like, I'm proud of you. Okay. I can't remember him ever saying that to me. Okay. So I learned how to get bad attention, right? Which was no better than no attention out. Now that wasn't his fault. I was kind of born that way, but it came down to utilizing other people for myself, right? All right. During those bouts of guilt, there was never a decent regret for the harms I had done. And that is why this is one of the reasons why I'm really big on understanding that the principle behind step 9 is justice and not forgiveness. I don't know where people got forgiveness from, right? Okay. Or because we did somebody wrong, and the only true amends is changed behavior. Otherwise, I'm just kind of you can't use your ninth step to get in touch with somebody because you want to be their friend again. If that's why you're using it, then I've got it wrong, right? I had done nor was there any serious thought of making restitutions as I could. The idea of asking God's forgiveness, let alone any forgiveness of myself, never occurred to me. Of course, my really big liability, spiritual pride and arrogance, was not examined at all. I had shut out the light by which I might have seen it. Today, I think I can trace a clear linkage between my guilt and my pride. Both of them certainly were attention getters. Got it right. I've never read this before. It's just things fit. Both of them were certainly attention getters. In pride, I would say, look at me, I am wonderful. In guilt, I would moan, I'm awful. Therefore, guilt is really the reverse side of the coin pride. Guilt aims at self-destruction, and pride aims at the destruction of others. It's the same thing. It's just guilt's inside, pride's outside. Yeah. And it's all for attention. Okay? We tend to think we're either the shit or a piece of shit. But we're neither. God don't make shit. This is why I see humility for today as that safe and secure stance midway between these violent emotional extremes. It is a quiet place where I can keep enough perspective and enough balance to take my next small step up the clearly marked road that points between eternal values. Many of us have experienced a far greater emotional gyrations than I. Others have experienced less, but all of us still have them at times. Yet I think we not regret on these conflicts. They seem to be a necessary part of growing up emotionally and spiritual. They are the raw material out of which much of our progress has to be made. So again, just using something that's negative and utilizing it for something positive. Does anyone ask if AA is but a retching pit of conflict and pain and conflict? The answer is certainly not. In great measures, we AA have really found peace. However haltingly, we have managed to attain an increasing humility whose dividends have been serenity and legitimate joy. We do not detour as much or as far as we once did. At the outset of this meditation, it was thought that absolute ideals are far beyond our attainment or even our comprehension, that we would be sadly lacking in humility if we really felt that we could achieve anything like absolute perfection in this brief span of earthly existence. Such a presumption would certainly be the acme of spiritual pride. Reasoning thus, many people will have no truck at all with his absolute spiritual values. Perfectionists, they say, are either full of conceit because they fancy they have reached some impossible goal, or else they are swamped in self condemnation because they have not done so. Yet, I think we should not hold this view. It is not the fault of great ideals that are sometimes misused. Is it not the fault of great ideals that are sometimes misused and so become shallow excuses for guilt, rebellion, and pride? On the contrary, we cannot grow very much unless we have constantly tried to envision what the eternal spiritual values are. As step 11 of AEA's recovery program says, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. This surely means that we ought to look towards God's perfection as our guide rather than as a goal to be reached in any foreseeable time. At the beginning of this, I talked about being a vessel. There it is, step 11. Okay? Because all I'm really looking for is the knowledge of His will and the power to carry that out. Right? I'm gonna have to do some seeking. I'm gonna have to do some work to find that out. Right? Okay. Then what does it go on to say? That I should use those perfect ideals as a goal for something to attain, knowing I'm not going to reach it. And that's okay. It's okay. Right? I'm sure, for instance, that I ought to seek out the finest definition of humility that is possible for me to envision. This definition doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. I'm only asked to try. Right? Suppose I choose one like this. Perfect humility would be a state of complete freedom from myself, freedom from all claims that my defects of character now lay so heavily upon me. Perfect humility would be a full willingness in all times and all places to find and do the will of God. When I meditate on such a vision, I need not be dismayed because I shall never attain it, nor need I swell with presumption that one of these days its virtues shall be all mine. I only need dwell on the vision itself, letting it grow and evermore filling my heart. This done, I can compare it with my last taken personal inventory. Then I get a sane and healthy idea of where I actually stand on the highway of humility. I see that my journey toward God has scarce begun. As I thus get down to my right size and stature, my self-concerns and importance become amusing. Then faith grows that I do have a place on this highway, that I can advance upon it with deepening peace and confidence. Once more, I know that God is good, that I need fear no evil. This is a great gift, this knowledge that I do have a destiny. As I do continue to contemplate God's perfection, I discover still another joy. As a child, hearing my first symphony, I was lifted up into an indescribable harmony, though I knew little of how or whence it came. So today, when I listen to God for God's music of all the spheres, I can now and again hear those divine chords by which I am told that the greatest composer loves me and that I love him. All right. That's going to be it on this one. But it gives us, it gives us kind of a view of what humility is, and in its different forms. I really like his description of finding gold. Um, you know, Bill's a pretty good writer, man. He's pretty good at descriptions. Of course, he probably had a publisher that helped him with that. I don't know. I don't know. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Good chance I'll be back at 3. I'm just trying to fill up some time. Trying to fill up some time. I don't want to be left alone with my thoughts today. I just don't. Till I can trust myself on them again. Right? So, but in the meantime, considering everything, it's turning into a pretty good day, man. So, all right. Thank you for being here. Might see you a little bit later. I love you. You know I do.